So as I left off last time, our dog is lame now on his left hind leg, the leg with the lump, and now we start again trying to figure out what to do. So I called up our regular vet. She was on vacation. So I drove him back to the emergency room with the doctor who had diagnosed his other leg having a swollen knee, thinking that, we're kind of continuing the problem. They actually turned me away, saying that he was not an emergency. I do not really understand why we got in the first time and not the second time. Really not clear on that. But yeah, they actually turned us away, so I had to go back home and wait for our vet to come back from vacation. After our vet came back from vacation, I spoke to her on the phone. She felt we probably needed to go see an orthopedist. So she said, we'll call around, we'll send his file to places and see where we can get in. This is where things started getting really frustrating. Specialists take a very long time to get an appointment with, as we have discovered. There was about a 2-month wait for anybody. We called everybody within about a 2.5 hour radius, and everybody was about 2 months out. So I picked the one that was slightly less than the others, and this appointment would have just been for a consultation. It would have been any diagnostic testing, like a CAT scan, because at this point my vet was saying he probably needs to get a CAT scan to see what's going on in there. So that would just be for the consultation. Super frustrating. So time's marching on. My dog is in pain, and I'm waiting and waiting, watching this lump grow bigger and bigger. Time is passing. The bump on his face is getting bigger and redder and angrier. So it actually was at least 3 weeks before I finally decided he cannot wait any longer. And I called around. I got an emergency hospital that was willing to see him. So we took him in. They admitted him. They did all his testing. Got him a CAT scan, got him biopsies, got him all of the stuff that he'd really been needing all the time, while everybody was guessing and saying, oh, we'll wait and see and whatnot. And he finally got all the testing done. Of course, it was going to take time. Meanwhile, his appetite was decreasing. He was in a lot of pain, as I had said, and he was starting to get really thirsty. So something was happening. The dog's situation was changing. Didn't know what was going on. I was really glad when we finally got all the tests. So the CAT scan was worse than we had anticipated. It showed that he had a very large lump in that hind left leg that had grown and grown, started in the muscle and had started to take over his femur bone, his upper thigh bone, and started to do damage there. He had another large lump on his other hind leg near his hip that went up into his back and was actually entangling with his spine. He had another smaller lump further up his spine, and he had a couple of lumps in his lungs. So at that point, they knew that it was cancer. When they saw it in the lungs, that was an indicator that it wasn't another condition or benign tumors, that it was cancer, it was spreading. So that was really heartbreaking. And it took several more days to get the diagnosis from the biopsies to confirm that it was cancer. It turns out to be a soft tissue cancer, which unfortunately, like so many human cancers as well, they don't know what causes it. And so that part is a little frustrating. You question, did I do something? Did I cause this? Or did I not do something? Was there something I didn't feed him? Was there something, I should have done? And I think that we felt angry at the doctors who had misdiagnosed him and said, let's wait and see, because if we hadn't, we might have caught it earlier and it would have had a much better prognosis than the complicated advanced cancer that we're dealing with now. I was mad at myself and mad at myself because I'm normally a very skeptical, distrusting person, and I was putting my faith in these vets that they knew better than I did. But in the end, I should have listened to myself. I should have advocated harder for my dog to get him help, because he couldn't speak, and I knew something was wrong with my dog. And so I'm mad at myself for taking a back seat and putting everything in somebody else's hands. So you are your dog's advocate. Advocate hard for them. If you know something's wrong, get a second opinion, get a fifth opinion, push harder for the diagnostic tests. Just get it done, and get it done quickly. Call everybody. Don't wait. If you see anything that's unusual for your pet, don't wait. And hopefully you can have a better outcome than us. So, at this point, we know now that we had known at that point that the cancer was spread. We saw it on the CAT scan, and my dog's blood work was still normal. So my dog had cancer that had spread to multiple areas of his body, and all of his blood work was still normal. So again, the blood work is not a good indicator of illness. So keep that in mind. It does not necessarily tell if your pet is sick. So he has cancer now. We found out at this point. So now becomes the next step of what to do. We need to get him help. Now we need to find more specialists. Now we need to get an appointment with an oncologist. And that's where that is at this point in the story.